I want to start with something that surprises a lot of families. World schooling doesn't usually fall apart because people run out of money, or motivation, or even energy. It falls apart because the days slowly become heavier than expected. Not dramatically, just quietly. If you've ever thought, why does this feel harder even though technically nothing is wrong, then this video is for you. Because there's a very specific reason that this happens, and it has to do with pacing. Most families assume world schooling will be easier because it's more flexible. And flexibility feels like freedom. You imagine slower mornings, fewer rules, and more room to breathe. But flexibility without structure doesn't remove pressure, it just relocates it. Flexibility removes constraints, but it also removes boundaries. And without boundaries, everything starts to feel like a choice instead of a rhythm. Every day starts with a decision instead of a default.
What makes this tricky is that none of these decisions feel urgent. There's no crisis, no emergency. Nothing's obviously broken. So you don't notice how tired you're getting until it's too late.
For example, even after the day is done, you're still kind of mentally on. None of this feels like a big deal in the moment, but it's the very start of the pressure.
What most families underestimate isn't the difficulty, it's the volume of these decisions. You're deciding what kind of day it is before the day starts. You're deciding whether today is a work day or a rest day, whether you push through or pull back. You're deciding if what the kids do today counts as learning, if this is real school or just life, if you should be formalizing things more. You're deciding if each meltdown is boredom or regulation, if resistance means they need more structure or rest. And underneath this all is the constant background question: are we doing this right? Traditional school offloads thousands of decisions. World School hands them straight back to you. Decision fatigue doesn't come from big choices. It comes from never getting the option to stop choosing. That's why families feel exhausted even when their days look easy from the outside.
When nothing tells you to stop, most families don't slow down. They speed up. Not because they want to, but because there's constant pressure to make this worth it. There's this feeling that you should use every flexible day, that resting is okay later, but not now, that you didn't come all this way just to sit around. So days start to fill up. Weeks get busy without ever really settling down. And even when nothing is wrong, you never feel fully recovered. When there's no natural stopping point, the default becomes just one more thing, and that creates motion without recovery. So the moment this started to feel unsustainable for us was when we noticed that I was operating with a constant low level of exhaustion. This showed up in a sickness that I had, a virus, just a respiratory virus that everybody else got and was able to recover from pretty quickly. But in me, it ended up taking the better part of 3 weeks to fully recover from. And that was because I wasn't fully listening to my body that I needed real rest in that moment. A moment like this is when some families might start wondering if they're doing something wrong. Pacing isn't about doing less, it's about deciding less things.
This is where families start to feel confused, because it doesn't look like anything's wrong. But parents start snapping faster than they expect. Kids melt down even though nothing obvious has changed. There's quiet tension about whether to push or pause. You second guess small decisions constantly, and sometimes you wonder if it was easier before. Most families misread these signals. They think something is wrong with their kids, or their discipline, or their plan. But what's usually wrong is their system really hasn't had the chance to settle. This isn't a discipline problem. It's not a motivation problem. It's a design problem. What can happen next is called mislabeling. Families assume the problem is discipline, or motivation, or consistency. So they try to tighten things up, or push harder, or add more structure. But if pacing is the issue, this actually makes things worse.
Money matters. It helps. But money doesn't fix pacing. Money can buy convenience, it can buy help, it can buy experiences, but it can't buy rhythm. And without rhythm, even good resources create pressure instead of relief. That's why families with money still burn out. Once families start deciding for pacing, fewer decisions, clearer rhythms, and real rest, that's when everything changes. And that's what we'll start unpacking next.
Worldschooling doesn't break families because it's expensive or unrealistic. It breaks them when the pace is unsustainable.